Yo, just got off of work at the crib, or outside the crib, but just got off work, calm 6-hour shift, but I got me some protein after work. I might as well show y'all what I got. One of the workers in like the meat department at Whole Foods low-key just put me on. It's a beef porterhouse steak. So apparently it's like a New York and a tenderloin, so like a filet mignon combined. I didn't even know that was a thing, but shit, we got that. So I'm honestly hyped to try that. And then we just got some chuck stew meat. So how I low-key like to, or at least how I've been lately, trying to approach, buying food and stuff to, fuel my training and whatnot, is I want to have like a nice mix and match of like fatty meats and leaner meats. So like this stew is on the leaner side, and obviously the porterhouse is more on the fattier side. I mean, at least with the New York that's in there, right? But that's like how I usually have been structuring my hauls, or at least especially how I'm gonna start doing it more, because obviously the days where I'm eating mostly like keto versus the carb days, it's like I like to have the fattier meats on the the higher fat days, obviously, and then the leaner cuts on the carb up days. But yeah, so enough of that. Now that it's June, as I'm recording this, it's June 2nd, so it's Monday, and one of the goals that I set for May, that of course I was able to complete, because as we know, when you set the intention to get something done, you just get it done. Within 2.0, within becoming your best self, intention is what creates success. And so I set the intention at the beginning of May, and this is gonna be funny, because I set the intention to eliminate my YouTube usage. So prior to or at least going into May, at this point in my life, social media is just like, it just does not serve me in any sort of way, and I don't value it nearly as much as a lot of people do. And so going into May, up until then, really the only sort of social media I used was YouTube, because truthfully I think YouTube is the best platform. I think hands down it is easily the best platform when you compare it to like TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or any other social medias. I think YouTube is just, it's special. It's different in that it just feels more authentic. It feels more like people actually come on the platform, whether it be the creators of, even just people commenting on posts. It just feels more, authentic and natural, as opposed to, TikTok and Instagram, all the short form sort of content where it just feels like everybody's trying to chase views and whatnot, all these trends. But, I always thought YouTube was different, and it's especially why within like, this entire personal development journey, journeying towards 2.0, my best self, YouTube has always had a place, and that I've always been able to get such good value from it in terms of, having certain creators that I respect and value. And just the fact that, the content is obviously so much more intentional and educational because it's longer form. But so going into May, I decided that, despite all of that, even though YouTube was really the only sort of platform I was using, I still noticed that it was sort of inhibiting me. And, I'm going to go into that in a second, but it was sort of inhibiting me, and it's why I decided that I wanted to completely, for just a month, do not watch any videos at all. Even if I saw a video and I was like, oh my, this could be super insightful. This could be super informative. This could help me with this area that I'm struggling with. I told myself, you know what? I'm going to cut all of that out. And it's funny because a few days later, I ended up starting this YouTube channel because I guess, I couldn't help myself with, just not being able to, go on YouTube and, use it in the ways that I thought would, be beneficial to me. So I was like, I just felt compelled eventually, a few days into the month to just start my YouTube channel. And obviously we're here now. It's been, about 3 weeks, but yeah, enough of that. So after a month of zero YouTube usage, I mean, of course, aside from, posting videos and whatnot, it made me realize that social media is hijacking your brain. It's hijacking your potential as an individual, especially when it comes to the mental aspect, in that you don't realize it, but when you are a consumer, because if you are using social media not with the intention to create and post things, you're a consumer. And living that sort of lifestyle of like being a consumer, especially relative to social media, it is the worst thing you can do if you are trying to pursue authentic success and become your 2.0, your best self. The whole idea of social media and being a consumer is that you are giving your attention towards other people. You are fixating on what other people are doing. You see, especially at the beginning of this year, going into this year, 2025, I was struggling a lot with social media usage. And of course, as the year was ending, 2024, I had gotten a bit better about it. I downloaded a screen time app, Opal, that screen block or whatever it's called, like a time blocking app where it blocks apps for you. And so I got that, and obviously I started using it on the social media apps that I would use, like, TikTok or Instagram. And, it helped me, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And it wasn't until the beginning of this year where I really began to just hammer down on reducing my social media usage, because I was seeing how much it was negatively affecting me in terms of just how I would carry myself mentally. Because especially with TikTok and Instagram, the short form content, in Snapchat too, because I would use that as well. It's like every time I would open that app, it was just because I was trying to see what other people were up to, or I was just trying to get a quick, dopamine hit, especially with TikTok. TikTok is just like, I have no words for TikTok. Instagram is not as bad, but still, at least for me, I noticed every time I wanted to open up Instagram, it was just so I could see what, not even necessarily like other people, like friends and stuff, but just like these other people, like, these creators that have like the success that I want, that were living the lifestyles that I, sort of yearned for and desired. And every time I would open the apps, I would see that, and it would just, result in this influx of emotions and just putting me in that desire mindset, and creating that insecurity and scarcity within myself. And obviously another part of that, especially with like the YouTube as well, was that in watching other people's content so much and so often, it's like, sure, I would get value from it. Of course, I'd developed this sort of structure to ensure that I wasn't purely watching videos for like, entertainment. I was actually extracting, some form of application that I could use towards my life within those videos. But I would still notice that I began to almost, adopt the beliefs of others and, start operating on other people's standards. And it's why I say that, social media is just, it hijacks your brain, because when you're able to see all these other people, see exactly what they're up to, and have their beliefs and what they're trying to achieve placed onto you, it's so overwhelming. And it's like you don't even realize it either, because consciously you might be thinking like, oh, like, yeah, this is helping me, this guy's content is helping me. But subconsciously, you could then be adopting those sort of beliefs without even knowing, because of course within content not everything is going to resonate. I acknowledge that if whoever's watching this video, it's like you don't have to agree with everything I say. We obviously are put on this earth to have different perspectives and have our own approach in life. That's why 2.0 is all about authentic success. It's about creating the life and building that version of you that is inherently what you want. It's not what other people want out of you. But with social media, it's like it becomes so easy to fall into that sort of trap of just having your mental frameworks, everything just you're constantly comparing and constantly experiencing opposition relative to your beliefs, because what you believe someone else will say like, oh no, that's not good. And then it's like your subconscious runs with that, right? It all comes down to like subconscious and your subconscious and how it works, because within content consumption, man, if you're not careful, if you're not intentional about the content you consume, it can really mess with you. It can really mess with your whole belief system and your own self-image within yourself. And it's exactly why I decided to cut it out going into May. And now that it's June, after doing that, the difference is profound, right? I essentially started a whole YouTube channel. I literally went from being a consumer to becoming a creator as a result of just setting the intention to quit YouTube, right? And obviously leading up to that point, I had essentially stopped using TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat at all. It's like if I even use those apps, it's like maybe to respond to like a friend that like sends me a snap or something on Snap, for whatever reason, right? I don't use it, but yeah. And truthfully, social media it's such a detriment to this generation, right? And I sound like some old head, right, talking about, oh, social media is not, social media is so bad. But it's like, truthfully, man, even at this young of an age, it's like I acknowledge that it just saps your potential. It saps your ability to think for yourself and just actually begin to build that authentic success, because you're constantly being bombarded with all of these judgments and opinions of others, all these standards people place on you, man. And it's why I truthfully believe, as I mentioned, you don't have to resonate with me, you don't have to, I'm just placing my opinions and judgments on here for anybody who just resonates with it, right? If you don't, that's cool. But I honestly believe if you are intent on becoming your best self, becoming your 2.0, achieving that authentic success, man, it is such a high ROI thing that will serve you for years and years to come, especially as technology gets more and more advanced. These apps become even more addicting, right? It is so high ROI that you at least dedicate a week, right? Because prior to this month, there have been weeks where I told myself, okay, I'm not going to use Instagram, I'm not going to use YouTube, and I've done that. And obviously, I would go back to, because I would convince myself like, oh no, I get so much value from it. But it wasn't until I went through this entire month I realized that it's like, bro, I don't even need it. Right now, it's like I consume content mostly just for fulfillment and entertainment, rather than like thinking like, oh no, I need content to gain insight and knowledge on certain things, right? It's like if I see a piece of content I like, or that I'm interested in, it's like I'll go and watch it. But I'm done convincing myself that I have to dedicate time towards, using social media if I want to gain value or knowledge. But needless to say, I'm here to encourage you and to lay out this idea that quitting social media for even a day, right, or just a week, if you did that, I promise you, you would notice the difference. You would notice the difference in how you carry yourself and how you move within the day, because you're not sitting there being a consumer. You're not fixating on other people's lives. You have no choice but to then fixate on your life, what you actually want to become, right? No more are the days where other people are placing their standards on you. You are now able to begin building your own standard when you relinquish that urge to just go on social media and start scrolling, right? If you are at the point where you really only use YouTube, you're honestly already, halfway there. You have a head start. Truthfully, that's TikTok and Instagram, it's like just the scrolling, it's terrible. With YouTube, it's like, it's more long form. It's like, okay, sure, there's shorts, right? But like, dude, if you're using shorts on YouTube, then we're not gonna go there. But anyway, if you at least acknowledge that, TikTok and Instagram, you can, step away from that and see how it affects your life quality, then, real progress can be made, right? I truthfully believe that, the end goal for anybody, or for a lot of people that I feel like would serve them well, especially people, my age, in this, within this generation, is to just be at the point where you don't even feel compelled to go on social media, right? Like, of course, within me, it's like, since I'm making YouTube videos, at times it's like I want to go and watch other people's videos just to, now, obviously, as a creator, it's like, maybe get insights and ideas for like certain content to make. Not necessarily about like, learning, but just like ideas. And if you can get to that point where you don't even feel the need to go on social media, your progress will 10x. It's like, quitting for a month, YouTube for a month, it literally allowed me to create this channel. Like, think about that. It allowed me to create a whole YouTube channel. So that's really all I'm preaching right now, is to just take a few days or a week at the minimum, right? Obviously a month, even better, but just take that time to step away from social media and actually shift from being a consumer to becoming a creator. It doesn't even have to be like, you post stuff. Like, being a creator is just acknowledging that you are in control of creating your own reality, of creating that version of you and striving to become that, right? All it takes is quitting social media, in my opinion, and it's truthfully one of the best things you can do in this day and age to regain your authenticity, regain control of your mind, and to thus begin developing yourself in that direction towards 2.0. But yeah, it's, the weather is not the greatest, I will say. It's pouring right now, so I'm probably gonna have to chill in here for a second after I end this. But as I said, experiment with it. Just run like a few day experiment, a week experiment. See how it serves you, and I promise you, at the end of it, you'll notice a difference. If anything, after the first week of me doing it, it led me to want to be more intentional about the content I was consuming, because a lot of people just use it unintentionally. But if you can at least create some form of intention within it, where it's like, oh, I want to use, or I want to look at only these people's pages because they actually motivate me and inspire me, and they put stuff out that resonates with me, instead of just scrolling and seeing anything that pops up. if you can at least become more intentional within your content consumption and then gradually decrease it, that's beautiful. That's beautiful stuff right there. But that's really all I wanted to say. I might have to do a mad dash to the apartment, but hey, that's how it be sometimes. You know, bad weather, it's nothing. It's nothing. But see y'all. Hope y'all guys got value from that. I appreciate, you know, any feedback, you know, drop a like, whatever, all that good stuff. But yeah, man, social media is, you know, it sucks. It sucks, but 2.0 will change that, hopefully, for a lot of people. See y'all.